Dear weary heart, I'm writing to you in this moment when the masks have become too heavy to hold, when the smile you've been wearing feels like it might crack your face, when I'm fine sits on your tongue like a stone you can no longer swallow. I know you're tired, not the kind of tired that sleep can fix, though heaven knows you need that too. I'm talking about the tiredness that lives in your bones, the exhaustion of performing, of translating your pain into something digestible for others, of making yourself smaller so you don't make anyone uncomfortable with the truth of how much you're struggling. I see you there, holding it all together with thread and willpower, and I want you to know something. You can stop now, at least here, in this space, in these words that find you wherever you are. You can let it fall. You can be exactly as tired as you are. There's this myth we've all been sold, isn't there? That strength looks like resilience, that resilience looks like never breaking, that breaking means you failed at being human. But here's what I've learned, what I'm still learning on the days when my own armor feels too heavy to wear. The most profound strength isn't in never falling apart. It's in the courage to let yourself come undone. Think of the trees in autumn. They don't apologize for letting go. They don't hold on to their leaves out of fear that bare branches might disappoint someone. They simply release what they can no longer carry, trusting that this shedding is part of their survival, that beneath the bark, in the quiet darkness of winter, something essential is being preserved. Maybe that's where you are right now, in your own season of letting go. And maybe you've been told, or you've told yourself, that this means you're weak, that you should be able to push through, that everyone else seems to manage, so why can't you? But love, what if I told you that everyone else is pretending too? That behind every "I'm good, how are you" is someone carrying their own invisible weight. That the performance of okayness is so convincing because we've all become such practiced actors in the theater of fine. I think about all the energy we spend trying to meet everyone's expectations, our families, our friends, our own impossible standards. We become curators of ourselves, editing out the messy parts, the struggling parts, the parts that might make someone worry or turn away. We become so good at pretending that sometimes we forget we're doing it, until one day, like today maybe, we're just too tired to keep going. And that's when the truth finds us, when the performance becomes unbearable, when we can't take one more "how are you," knowing we'll have to lie through our teeth, when we look at ourselves in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back, so buried under the weight of who we think we should be. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes with pretending, isn't there? A strange isolation that happens even in rooms full of people. Because when you're wearing a mask, even love can't reach you. It touches the surface of who you're performing to be, but never quite makes it through to the tender, true parts of you that are aching to be seen. I wonder what would happen if you let someone see. Not the polished version, not the highlights reel, but the real, unfiltered truth of where you are. The exhaustion, the doubt, the days when getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain, the nights when you cry without knowing exactly why, just that something in you needs to be released. I know it's scary. I know you might think that if people saw how much you're struggling, they'd leave, that your worth is somehow tied to your ability to keep it together, that love is conditional on your performance of wellness. But what if it's not? What if the people who matter are actually waiting for permission to stop pretending too? What if your honesty could be the exhale that lets everyone else finally breathe? I'm not saying you need to unburden yourself to everyone. Some people haven't earned access to your tender places. Some people aren't safe with your truth, and that's okay. But maybe there's one person. Maybe there's your journal or your therapist or a voice memo you record just for yourself. Maybe there's this moment right now where you finally admit to yourself, I am not okay, and I'm allowed to not be okay. Because here's what pretending costs us. It costs us our authenticity, our connection, our chance to receive the care and support we so desperately need. When we pretend, we build walls that keep out not just potential judgment, but also potential comfort. We isolate ourselves in the very moments we most need to be held. And you deserve to be held, not despite your brokenness, but with it, all of it. The parts of you that are struggling, the parts of you that are tired, the parts of you that don't have it figured out. Those parts are not flaws to be hidden. They're proof that you're human, that you're alive, that you're feeling the weight of existence, and that weight is real. I think sometimes we forget that it's okay to be a work in progress, that we don't have to arrive at some mythical destination called healed or whole before we're worthy of tenderness. That the journey itself, with all its stumbling and backsliding and moments of overwhelming exhaustion, is where our humanity lives. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to say, I can't, instead of, I'll try. You're allowed to cancel plans, to ask for help, to admit that you're not coping as well as you thought you would. You're allowed to take off the armor and just exist for a while in your own soft, undefended truth. I want you to know that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be inspirational or instructive with your pain. You don't have to turn your struggle into a lesson or a silver lining or a testimony to growth. Sometimes pain is just pain. Sometimes tired is just tired. And it's enough to simply acknowledge it, to honor it, to let it be what it is without trying to make it mean something. Rest, dear one. Not the kind of rest that's productive or strategic or part of your wellness routine. I mean the deep, surrendering kind of rest that comes when you finally stop fighting. When you let yourself sink into the truth of where you are. When you stop trying to be anywhere else, anyone else, anything other than exactly what you are in this moment. And if that feels impossible right now, if you're reading this and thinking, I can't stop, I have too much to do, too many people depending on me, then maybe just stop for the length of this letter. Just for these few minutes, let yourself be held by these words. Let yourself be exactly as tired as you are. You've been so strong for so long. You've carried so much. You've shown up when you didn't think you could. You've kept going through things that would have leveled other people. And all of that matters. All of that counts. But you don't have to keep proving yourself. You don't have to earn your right to rest through suffering. I wish I could tell you when it will get easier, when the weight will lift, when you'll wake up one morning and feel like yourself again. But the truth is, I don't know. What I do know is this. You're not alone in your exhaustion. You're not the only one who's tired of pretending. And your worth has never been contingent on your ability to hold it together. The most radical thing you can do right now might be the simplest. Tell the truth. To yourself first, and then, when you're ready, to someone else. Say the words you've been afraid to say. I'm not okay. I'm struggling. I need help. I can't do this alone. Those words aren't a white flag. They're not defeat. They're the beginning of something honest, something real, something that might actually lead to the kind of connection and support your weary heart has been craving all along. So take off the mask, love, at least for now, at least here. Let yourself be seen in your tiredness, in your uncertainty, in your very human struggle. Let yourself receive what you've been giving everyone else: compassion, understanding, the grace to be imperfect. You are enough, even in your exhaustion, even in your inability to pretend anymore. Maybe especially then, because in that raw, unguarded honesty, you're finally letting yourself be real. And real, even when it's hard, even when it's heavy, is always more beautiful than perfect. Rest now, however you can. The world will still be here when you're ready, and so will the people who truly see you, not the version you've been performing, but the weary, honest, beautifully human you that's been hiding underneath all along, with all the tenderness your tired heart deserves. Someone who understands.